In today's video, we're going to be talking about and making this delicious Vietnamese coffee called Café Soda. Delicious, bold, sweet, creamy, just absolute yum, and perfect on a really hot summer day like today. In the 1800s, France decided to invade and colonize Vietnam to spread Christianity, and with that came coffee. Interestingly enough, the first coffee that was planted and grown in Vietnam was actually the Arabica species. It started with small venture, private-owned farms. Fast forward to the 1950s, we have the Vietnam War, and then the first commercial coffee processing plant was built. The industry really expanded during the Doi Moi economic reform in 1987 after the 20-year-long Vietnam War. There was a massive and sudden push for quantity over quality, and that's where Robusta shines. It's a lot easier to grow and it's a lot hardier, so Robusta took over. By the 90s, Vietnam became the second largest exporter of coffee, outpacing Colombia. Today, Vietnam accounts for 20% of the world's production of coffee and 40% when it comes to the Robusta species specifically. In order to make Vietnamese coffee, specifically Café Soda, which translates to coffee, milk, ice, we're going to need coffee, Robusta in this case, a Phin, condensed milk, and ice. For the coffee, I actually have here a blend of Robusta and Arabica. I had a very hard time finding Robusta coffee locally, which is my preference. Most of the coffees nowadays are Arabica, especially in the third wave world. And when I went to the Asian grocery stores, I was able to find Robusta Vietnamese coffee, but they were all pre-ground. Who knows how long they've been on the shelves for. This will be a good blend that will still work. And honestly, even if you wanted to do Vietnamese coffee and it's not authentic, but it's fine, you could go for a medium to dark roast. It's similar flavor profiles. Robusta does have more caffeine content and is a different species, so it will not be exactly the same, but you're gonna get the same essence of what it is and what it is like, especially if you have the condensed milk and you have the Phin. It'll be close enough. You can also buy these online, and I'll link some different options that you have down below. But in my case, it just didn't feel worth it because the shipping costs more than the coffee itself. So it was like, that was a no-no for me. So this will do just fine. For the grind size, we're gonna go for something that is between fine and medium, something that is between pour over and espresso, in between that range. So Phin is sort of like a pour over. It's got a flat bottom base as well. The Phin has three different parts to it. You have the lid, which will keep the water from evaporating and also retain the heat as much as possible. Then you have the main body. This is where all the coffee grinds go. You have a little handle so you can handle it when it's too hot. And inside of it as well, you have this filter disc. You don't need to push it very hard. You just flatten the bed. You don't need to condense it like crazy. This is not espresso. And then you just have the base here, which sits on top of your glass. A simple, delicious cup of coffee, especially with the condensed milk. I find it's a lot more forgiving, and the need to be precise and control is less there. How I've always had it was very unfussy and easy. If you have a sweet tooth when it comes to coffee and you want something easy, not fussy, and you like that more bitter and more dark roast profile, this is an excellent way to consume it, and it's really easy to brew. If you want to have a bit more precision in terms of the grind size, you can look for first drops after 2 minutes, and the entire extraction time should be done in about 5 minutes. When you go online and you look for recipes of Vietnamese coffee, a lot of the times you actually just see it in tablespoons. So I guess if you're buying pre-ground, it makes it easy. You just take a spoonful, so it's like you don't even have to necessarily be that precise. And of course, it depends on your taste profile and your palate. Phins now come in various colors and a few sizes like 4, 12, and 24 ounces. My Phin is a very typical single serve 4-ounce stainless steel Phin, meaning we'll dose 14 grams or 2 tablespoons of ground coffee with 4 ounces of water. We're gonna have hot water somewhere between 195 and 200 Fahrenheit. I'm gonna use my Star Esso Discovery 2 grinder. There'll be a full review of this on my channel. Look for it in the description. We're gonna go between pour over and espresso. Once you put it in there, you level out the bed. This little filter disc on top, and let gravity push it down a little bit. Just make sure it's all flat and even as much as possible. Then I'm gonna use my trusty Zoshi Roshi hot water boiler and warmer. I have a full review on this. I love this thing. Instant hot water. It's set at 208. The water coming out is at about 199 Fahrenheit in reality. which is actually perfect for what I need for this and generally pour overs. I could put a little bit of water in here, just enough to wet the bed, and let it bloom for about 30 seconds to let more CO2 gases off gas and bubble out. But I honestly don't even do that when it comes to this. It's very not finicky. I've always had Vietnamese coffee at restaurants, and like, granted, they're not trying to make the world's best coffee, but that's kind of what I love about this. It's just trying to be delicious and tasty and simple. And they never bloom. They just put the water in, bring it to your table, and call it a day. They don't have time for blooming. So we're gonna even go simple, and we're not gonna bloom. I'm just gonna put the water in here directly and fill it to the top. Then we'll put the lid. There was a little bit of bubble escaping earlier that I just missed, and that must have been some of the blooming. You can see a little bit of bubbling still happening there. Okay, as it's brewing, let's talk about this beauty right here, condensed milk. For the dairy that was used, it is condensed milk, and we can find this tracing back all the way to about the 1850s when coffee was first introduced to Vietnam. Fresh milk was not readily available in Asia at the time. It wasn't very shelf stable, lack of refrigeration, and the dairy farming industry was in its infancy. French nationals living in Vietnam had to import milk from the motherland. However, the sheer volume and the short shelf life of milk made transporting large quantities of fresh milk from France to Vietnam very impractical. By removing the water from the cow's milk, creating condensed milk, you remedy that problem and create a more shelf-stable product, and can be stored for many years. And luckily, the sweet condensed milk also works really well to balance out the more bitter flavored natures of the medium to dark roast Robusta coffees that are known to be a bit more bitter, as well as having a higher caffeine content. I first discovered this drink when I went to Vietnamese restaurants, which forever since my childhood, I have Vietnamese in my family. I've always loved the taste of coffee, but I loved getting this, I loved seeing this. They would bring it to your table like this as it continued brewing, because it could take some time, so they would just have it prepped, ready to go, put it on your table, and then have a second glass with ice, and then you would pour it yourself. I felt like I was involved somehow. This iced coffee with a nice bowl of pho soup, delicious. It's done brewing, no more drops. The last thing to do is we stir our condensed milk and coffee mixture and then serve it over ice. Cheers. It's bold, it's sweet, a lot more darker roast and flavor, but that is like the nutty, earthy flavor profile that is often found in Robusta as well. They are also generally roasted on a medium to dark profile. Let me know in the comments if you made it or if you've had it. If you don't want to make it, just go to a Vietnamese restaurant and try it out. It's delicious. Get yourself a yummy bowl of pho at the same time. If it's hot outside, yes, you will sweat, but then you can have this refreshing drink to cool you off. And honestly, a pho soup, even in the middle of summer, is just absolutely worth it. There's another drink that's an egg coffee. You whip up egg, condensed milk, and sugar, and then you also mix it with coffee. That was in response to a milk shortage back in the day in the 1946, I believe. And then also there's a bunch of other new coffees that's been coming out. There's like yogurt coffee and coconut coffee, a bunch of different fun things to try. If you want to know more about my Zoshi Roshi hot water boiler, which can give you hot water instantly, you can check out this video here. Another fun video that might interest you on my channel, you can check that one out right here, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.